My name is Duddits, I do builds and stuff. Today's video is not a build, it's about, well, it's quite a sad video. It's about one of my favourite exotics on the Hunter. This exotic has been power crept in my opinion. It's pretty useless now in PvE. I am talking about the Mask of Bakris. And I feel like it's sort of been power crept a little bit by Foetracer and Spirit of the Foetracer, and also the lack of sort of stasis builds that we see now. We haven't really got much need for stasis builds, not that many. So I just want to go over the exotic and why I feel it needs a buff. So stay with me, I'll break it down. Now, the Mask of Bakris, when I first got this, I felt like an absolute god. I loved this helmet on the Hunter. It was a predominantly stasis season as well when I first got this, and it just felt amazing. While you have a stasis super equipped, your dodge becomes a longer range, faster moving shift that partially cloaks you. So you basically consume your class ability, your dodge, and then it also gives you a 25% stasis weapon boost and a 25% stasis arc weapon boost as well. So you'll see in this clip, you're going to see that light shift. We're going to go into that in a moment. That's one of the biggest downfalls, but you're going to see 10 seconds of arc weapon boost and 10 seconds of stasis weapon boost as well. So you can equip stasis and arc weapons, which is like a little bit of a change to what I used to do. A slight buff, but it's still not good enough in my opinion. Again, which we'll go into. So 10 seconds of stasis weapon boost and 10 seconds of arc weapon boost, 25%. But the biggest problem with this exotic helmet is when you've got that light shift active, your class regeneration does not sort of start building back up until that 10 seconds is gone. So it doesn't matter how much mobility you have on your Hunter, or no matter how much you build into class regeneration via fragments and mods, it just will not start working until that 10 seconds has gone. So you cannot get any class ability back at all, which to me kills the exotic hugely in PvE and PvP. There's not very much of a trade-off, especially if you compare it to Foetracer. Damaging a powerful combatant or a guardian with an ability temporarily increases weapon damage of the same type. Defeating the marked target with a damage type also gives you an elemental pickup. Now the Spirit of the Foetracer pretty much does exactly the same thing, except you don't get the pickup. So basically it acts very much like Mask of Bakris, except all you have to do with it and with a stasis melee to get your 25% damage increase, except with Foetracer you actually get 15 seconds now. So if you've got a stasis weapon and we use stasis melee, you're going to get 15 seconds of damage. You don't lose your class ability cooldown or anything like that. And you can also get your arc weapon boost as well, just by hitting them something like an arc bolt grenade as well. So you can still get your stasis and your arc weapon boost exactly the same, 25%, except you get 15 seconds and you don't lose your class ability, and you can start instantaneously building into your sort of ability regeneration, whether it's your stasis melee or your arc bolt grenade. And the thing is with Foetracer, you can literally mix and match any weapon you want. It doesn't have to be stasis or arc. You can do void, stasis, solar, strand, just for example. And you can do two things at once. You can throw a stasis melee to get a stasis weapon boost. You can also throw a swarm grenade to get a solar boost, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So it sort of makes Bakris sort of irrelevant. The only thing you gain from Bakris really is that dodge, which is pretty cool, but I just don't think it's worth the trade-off. So I've had a few ideas on how it'd work. So just for example, or sort of how to buff it, sorry. So if you just go to something like Renewal Grass, for example, this gives you frost armor. So if you stand inside of your Dustfield Grenade, we've also got certain exotics like Icefall Mantle that will just grant frost armor like consistently. So what happens if we have Bakris equipped and we do our light shift dodge? We get instant ×8 frost armor, just for example. Now, the other thing I like to run Bakris with is Shard Dive as well, but again, it's not something I do for a long time just because of the no need for stasis builds at the moment and the lack of sort of buffs for stasis. But for example, if you've got your Shatter Dive equipped, you can just sort of imagine you've got a bit of the renewal grasp going on. You're going to get your ×8 frost armor, or you're somewhat like Icefall Mantle. You could sort of like use your Shatter Dive for your smashing your stasis crystals, get your arc and stasis weapon boost, and get a ×8 frost armor so you can get in, do a smash, get out, nice and safe. You could even add a bit of healing on top of that as well when you use your light shift dodge. And then also, I'd like to say to Bungie, if we could get some of our class ability back when we use it versus not being able to just, like I said earlier in the video, regenerate anything at all. But let me know what you guys think. I think a frost armor and a healing sort of like tiny little buff would go a long way for this exotic, especially when you compare it with Foetracer. And don't forget, if you run Bakris on Prismatic, we can only get a ×5 frost armor as well versus ×8 on stasis. So anyways, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.